If he brings you happiness, then I wish you both the best. It's your happiness matters most of all. If he ever breaks your heart, if those teardrops ever start, I'll be there before the next teardrop falls.
That was good. So, dude, I'm reading up on a lot of stuff. I was seeing a lot of stuff, and so, like for anyone who doesn't know who you are and coming up, we obviously have to give them some background. And so, you're out of New Mexico,
Yes, sir.
but you were raised as a military brat. Yeah.
Yep.
So you traveled a lot. What was your least favorite place you traveled growing up?
Oh my God, I'm gonna be honest, California. I
Okay.
think it's a gorgeous state. Don't get me wrong, but where we were at, it was just so not fun. Man, we were in Myrna Valley, California, and my dad at the time was stationed at March Air Force Reserve Base there, and it was awesome. Got to see a lot of planes fly, which is really cool. They have an RPA training facility there for, I believe, the
Yeah.
National Guard, and that was cool. That's where I got like involved in planes is there.
Yeah.
But besides that, no, I loved Mississippi. Mississippi was awesome. New Mexico's home, so I love it here. And I don't remember Japan because I was born there and then left after a couple months. So
Okay. So born in Japan, but both your parents are Indonesian.
yes, so both my parents met in Indonesia. My dad was stationed there, and my mom was doing medical treatment over there at the time, and they met each other and
Okay.
fell in love. Got married in I think less than a month.
Love that. And your
Yeah.
dad works on the air base, but what was he? Mechanic, pilot, air control?
So at the time, I honestly don't know what he was doing in the military. I know that he was a Marine at first. So when I was born, he was still a Marine. Later on, he
Hmm.
transferred over to Army and then ended up in the Air Force. Wild. But yeah, he does a lot of linguistic stuff nowadays, and he's retired, but he
Okay.
works as a contractor for the military now.
Yeah, and have you ever considered joining the military?
I did. Okay, so not a lot of people know about me. Is that in college, I was on a full ride scholarship through Air Force ROTC. So um, all throughout college, I was working out a lot, was doing a lot of running, and then I got a scholarship called the You Can Fly Scholarship. So around my sophomore year, I started flying planes, like little Piper Cherokees. Freaking loved it. And ultimately, I thought I wanted to be a pilot, but I wanted to be more on the weapon system side of things. So
Hmm.
I opted for a scissor slot in the Air Force. I competed for it, and I received the slot. So I was very, very grateful. Um, as much as I loved the military and I loved being in planes and such, it ultimately wasn't for me. I left my contract literally a week before commissioning. Before I commissioned as a second lieutenant, I left. My colonel wasn't too happy, of course. My dad wasn't too happy,
Hmm.
but I was
Hmm.
happy, so that's all that matters for me.
And what was it like the control they had on you that you didn't want, or was it just the dream? Like what really pushed you that way?
So the last 2 years of college was kind of a blur, to be honest. Like I said, I was flying a ton at the time. Like
Hmm.
around 9 in the morning, I'd go out to the airport, go fly planes. But
Yep.
before that, at like 5 a.m., I'd wake up, go to my work at about 6, and then go to classes around 10, 10:30 or so. And I was doing this almost every single day. Thursday night, I pack up my bags and I hit the road, play shows. So majority of my junior, senior year of college, I don't really remember much because it was just go, go, go.
Hmm.
Music as a kid was kind of like my dream. My dad taught me how to play guitar, and I was always surrounded by musicians. So I knew deep down that that's what I want to do. I just never thought it would actually happen. And I'm a firm believer. I think Air Force was kind of like my safe option. It was a safe option. It was steady pay. It was consistent, you know.
Hmm.
And again, as much as I loved it, music was kind of dragged me down. I was like, I want to chase it because what's the worst that can happen, you know? If let's just say music doesn't happen, I have the Air Force to back up. I'll take, you know. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. A lot of people don't know it about me, but I actually, when I was 18, I went to basic in the Army, and I was in ROTC in Arkansas. I was also studying aviation, so I as
yeah.
well. I was a tri-sport collegiate athlete, so I was up at 5 a.m. swimming, and then my slot was at 8 a.m. You got blessed with Pipers. I had Cessnas.
Oh,
But they
awful
told
plane.
us that they said if you can fly a Cessna, you can fly anything because Cessnas don't want to lift off and they don't want to land.
Facts. That is so true.
So I learned both, you know, and so I pretty much was driving the Cadillac of the sky, and I'm not talking about the 1970s. I'm talking about current. And it was very humbling. The hardest part and why I left it was investing in college learning aviation, maybe not military, but college, we didn't have consistent instructors. Did y'all have consistent instructors?
I had a consistent instructor that I flew with. His name was Matt. Freaking love that guy. He was in a frat. It was super
Okay.
cool.
Oh, dude, it's always a frat guy.
He's
That's
a frat guy.
fantastic. Yeah. Though, we would always have guys who would do really well, and then they would get hired out to another school. And
Oh
so when you
wow.
get a new instructor, I got all the way up to soloing 5 times, I think. And every single time I would get to that solo, the instructor would leave. And the new instructor is not just going to like let you go up. He's like, all right, let's go back through every single thing you just did. So I
Yeah.
got really good at emergency situations. I got really
Yeah.
good at my formations, I got good at everything basic. So when we know
There
that,
we
that
go.
saying they said all the guys now think they can land a plane, I'm like, I know I sound like them, but I'm going to be honest. I mean, as long as I know where everything is, I do trust myself,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
Exactly. Just look at your avionics and you're good. You know.
Yeah, that's it.
Remember
That's
your
it.
ABCs in emergencies.
That's all you got to do. And so, yeah, it's interesting though to hear that connection because we also connect a lot through um, high school
Hmm.
because we saw each other. We met for the first time, and we were always online. We've been talking forever, but
Yep.
we met in Nashville. For those who didn't see our connection, and I hadn't been there in a decade. And the last time I was there was FBLA Nationals. So I
Yep.
was a finalist in what they call Mr. FBLA. So I had to like do this massive resume and take all these tests and interview. And I pretty much had to be like the all around guy, right? That was the
Yep.
last time I'd been there, and we were at Nashville Palace and oh, what was that called? Shootout? What is that one right beside it? The bar.
Uh, what is it called? Scoreboard.
Scoreboard. I was about to say
Scoreboard.
scores, and I was like, that doesn't sound right. But we were
Yes.
right across the road from the Grand Ole Opry Hotel. Kind of like now that I remember that, that's actually where I stayed for nationals at
Oh
FBLA,
wow.
right? So that was a one weekend, but it was a huge impact on my life. And yours was FFA because that's where you kind of
Hmm.
realized, that's where I can do this. And it was all because your teacher just decided, let's throw you in there,
Yeah.
right?
What's the worst that can happen? You know, I'm very grateful that she did too, though. To be honest, because I was still trying to figure out what kind of music I wanted to sing. I didn't know my voice. Like I was still learning guitar to an extent. Still like figuring. I
Yeah,
knew how to play guitar, but I was still figuring out the kinks. You know,
yeah.
and if she didn't push me to do it, I probably wouldn't be here today. And I'm very, very grateful for her, Miss Cassie Goff. She's freaking awesome.
Shout out Miss Cassie. Yeah,
Yep.
Cody Johnson got to start in FFA.
Yep, he
So
did.
yeah, it's always a blessing to have someone that pushes you through that and sees your potential. But I also think it's important for you, like, to face that fear and then to also,
Agree.
like, you had to get up on stage. You had to do those things. And you even got in the end to go play in Indianapolis at Lucas
Yep,
Oil
played at
Field Stadium.
Nationals, and that was really awesome.
Yeah, that's insane because I'm a Colts fan. So another connection
Oh,
we have
shoot.
because I love that stadium.
I feel bad, though. As soon as Manning left, it just went downhill from there.
Yeah, and I'm being from Arkansas, like the Razorbacks are a pro team. So
Hmm.
I've never really ever had faith in any team I've ever supported. I'm also a Minnesota Wild fan for hockey. So like we always have great potential and it just never gets there and that's okay.
It's okay. That's all that
Also
matters.
after playing like rugby, semi-pro and competing in cheer nationally, I'm kind of like I see these other sports. I'm like this is cool, but like I'm not going to put any value into this. So
That's fair.
again,
Well, that's
I
fair.
just
That's
have
fair.
fun like watching these guys play, and I love seeing what's going on. But in the end, yeah, sports are sports. That's why I try to stick to honky tonk.
That's exactly.
There's much more entertainment here, and so
I agree.
we try to
I agree.
promote that. And I don't see another way to live, to be honest.
I completely
But
agree.
talking more about your background,
Mhm.
you were saying in one interview with Donnie Cutler that you always listen for, a steel guitar or a fiddle, and you love the lyricism of country music.
Yes.
Yeah, and we actually in 2 weeks have Tracy Lawrence coming to Billy Bob's.
No
And I
way.
was told that Time Marches On by Tracy Lawrence was the first song that you really felt like country music.
Yeah, truthfully, like listening to Tracy Lawrence's song changed my life forever because it was one of those songs that like at the end of the day, time does march on. You gotta keep, no matter what shit you go through in your life, you gotta
Hmm.
keep pushing on, and that was kind of like my mindset on music and life in general. I mean, there's a lot of moments in my music career where I got a lot of no's or there was a lot of failures. At the end of the day,
Hmm.
time marches on. You keep pushing on as well, and it
Hmm.
was the same thing with the Air Force. I remember when I first took my AFOQT, I failed my officer qualifying test. And I was like, shoot, well, I'm not
Dang.
going to get this scholarship. I'm going to get kicked out of the program. This is going to suck. But I studied my ass off and finally passed it. And then, even then, like, when I received my slot in the Air Force as a combat systems officer, I didn't expect it at all, to be honest. Because I was like, shoot,
Hmm.
I'm not the best test taker, I guess. But I was very good athletic wise, and had a lot of good morals and leadership skills that ultimately boosted my scores.
Hmm.
But even then, like like time marches on. Like things get thrown at you in life, and it's what you do with it and what you don't do with it that determines what you do and
Hmm.
how your career or how your life turns out.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
gives and he takes away, man. You just got to
yeah.
roll with it. What's been the hardest no that you've probably received in your life, though?
The hardest no.
Like that rejection that you still kind of like. I wouldn't say you allow bitterness, but anyone who's played high level sports or has tried for anything well in life knows what I'm talking about when I'm saying like I'm not looking for something that you might be bitter about, but it's that thing that you put that chip on your shoulder. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you keep it there to keep that edge, to say I want to prove them wrong, not because I hate them, but
Yeah,
that bitter rejection that you've gotten that now you're like, all right, fuck you, watch this. Like you want
yeah.
to show them.
I think I remember the last 2 or 3 years. Like there's one point where I lived in Nashville, and this is one of those bitter moments. Is at the time I was still with a manager, and it was always that Asian token card that she kept throwing at different labels or different venues and such. And it just felt like to a point where I was like, oh, you should listen to this guy because he's Asian, he sings country, and that's it. And at the end of the day, I'm one of those guys that believes that like I want to be known for the music that I do and the good that I do in this world, not necessarily because of my ethnicity, my color, whatever, my
Hmm.
race. I can care less
Hmm.
about that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I grew up around white people, and it's freaking awesome. I'm more like a little coconut. I'm dark on the outside, white on the inside. But so because of that, it's always been that chip on my shoulder. It's like, oh, I don't want like to be known just that I'm the Asian country singer. Like I want to be known for the music I do, like the style I do, and the stories I can tell and people can relate to. So
Hmm.
that's kind of the thing that kind of pushes me every single day. Is like, okay, what makes you different, but also something that people can relate to in a sense. And I'm kind of contradicting myself in a way, but yes, like that little Asian token thing works here and there. It's nice, but I just don't want to be known for that specific reason only. I guess. Um,
Yeah, I
if
felt
that
the
makes
same way
sense.
though too with people like trying to say things like Beyonce's from Texas, therefore she's country. It's the same of
Mhm.
both sides of like being from Arkansas isn't what makes me who I am, but it
Yeah,
does. I'm not just Arkansan. I'm not just the son of a generation. I'm not just these things. However, like you're saying, I mean, what also has separated me in a lot of the dance community is I'm an Arkansan that is the son of a generational, like, and
yeah.
so that's on the flip side too. Then, where do you see that have, you might not even recognize it yet. And again, to be fair, and I want you to be honest with yourself, you might not be there yet, which is a good thing because if you are already there at this point in your career, it's like, wow, that this is it, like we're already here. But where do you see though that maybe that token had a positive, not beneficial, not like, oh, I use it, but isn't like, have you came in contact with people and they were inspired by you, or you really saw an interaction of maybe you changing someone's mind about who you are, and also how do you see that the culture of the Indonesian culture, how does that connect with that country music and country culture as a whole? Because I think there's a
Yes.
lot. I think there's a lot, and so I'm interested about your perspective.
Yes. So I'm actually really grateful that you asked me this question because I just got back from Indonesia like a week
I
ago.
saw that, yeah.
And that was one of the most life changing moments I've had in a very long time. And I haven't been to Indonesia in basically 10 years, maybe a little bit down,
Mm,
a little bit shorter. But the last time I was there, I was very young. I didn't necessarily know who I was then. And now that I got to experience things where like I have lived a life a little bit and I've learned more about myself and going there, it changed my life forever. I got to see my mom's side of the family. And I remember when I first showed up to the little house, they had like this little banner that said Dzaki Sukarno, had my face on it, and it says meet and greet. And that threw me off. I was like, what the heck? What are you guys doing? And they made like matching T-shirts and stuff, and my music was playing across the house, and I was like, wow, it's really cool to see that like my family, who only speaks Indonesian, doesn't speak any English whatsoever, maybe a little bit here and there, they enjoy the music that I'm doing, and because of that, they've also started listening to other artists and stuff and bringing that local
mm,
music. But the funny thing as well is that they're like, hey, um, my mom's family's from Bandung, Indonesia. Like, there's a whole bunch of music venues in Bandung, and they love like old country music. You should play over here. And that's when I was like, what the heck? There's country music in Indonesia? That threw me off forever.
mm-hmm.
And it got to a point where I ended up playing a show in Indonesia while I spent time there. I played a wedding and sang some country music there as well. And then we actually shot a country music TV special for international television in Indonesia.
That's
So
awesome.
it was kind of cool to see that both of my worlds and my history, my background kind of just all blended together all in a span of a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very, very grateful for that
Incredible.
trip and changed my life forever. And I realized like, hey, it doesn't matter where you're from or anything like that. And whatever genre of music you do, if you're able to connect people, that's all that matters. And that's what I'm here for at this point is just keep connecting people in different ways.
Yeah. And where do you see that the people in that area are really, I mean, Asia as a whole, but I want to specifically stick to Indonesia. It's like, where do you see that they did connect to country music and country culture?
So recently I got put in touch with a man. His name is Tonto Wiaya, and he is like the father of country music in Indonesia, which I didn't know about. But yeah, he very big in Indonesia, and he had a TV special that was running almost every single week for 25 or 30 years or so, where he would sing country music live on
Wow.
air every single week. And I finally got to meet this guy, got to talk to him, and it's actually funny. We're playing a show in Houston together in a week now, and it's
That's
at the
awesome.
Indonesian consulate. So
Wow.
it's just like I said, everything has kind of just been building up that fan base in Indonesia, and the goal ultimately is hopefully bring country music out there too. I mean, if there is some sort of hope and some sort of flame, might as well put some lighter fluid
Mm-hmm.
on it, maybe some gasoline, and get it flowing.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be really cool to do a tour out there, or even somewhere like near Australia. I mean, Australia's pretty close by, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's been fun so far, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here.
Yeah. From my eyes, I've always seen a lot of like work ethic that connects, a lot of family values,
Hmm.
a lot of high quality values. If we're going to do something, at least, of course, everyone's going to have expectations, but like if you're going to do something, be the best at it type,
I
you
agree.
know. But it also has a lot of mercy and um, heavily based on like a lot of grace, loving family type,
Yes.
where the family is more than everything. And I think that's what I see a lot in connecting those values, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's so cool. You got to connect with those. And you say you haven't been home in 10 years because you, like we said, you traveled a lot. You were mentioning California, Mississippi. You moved out to Nashville for a bit, and now you're back in New Mexico.
Yes, I recently bought a house here in town. It's not too bad.
Got
I
your
live
flesh in
alone.
this economy, man. Wow, he's made
It
it.
was
He's made
crazy.
it.
Made
That's
it.
it.
I'm just really good with my money. I don't recklessly spend on random things here, but yeah, I'm very,
Well,
very
with the
grateful.
price of brush popper these days, I'm surprised you have any money, because you have a massive closet and like a very good closet. And for me, I can't find any less than like $75. And I was like, and then also I want a square body, and I'm not gonna be able to find any of those for less than like
You
22.
do.
So
I want a square body
yeah,
so bad.
that's
Like a high boy, like a '70s Ford F-100 would be sick.
yeah. I wanted a '96 because that's the year I was born, and it's the last
Okay,
year that Ford made their square bodies. After that,
that's
they went
true.
into the rounded shell, and I don't want those, but it's also the newest. So I was like,
True. And
maybe
also the
it'll be in better
'73
shape.
Power Stroke, one of
Yeah,
the
I
best.
mean, I would.
Two-tone
There's a lot of options we could go for, but in the end, again, we're gonna have to wait like another decade for all this to die down, so
Yeah,
that the demand is far lower.
I agree.
But you never know. We might pass by a house and see some old geezer with it out in the front yard and be able to barter with him.
Yep.
I still have one back home. There's that old Mustang out in the front yard, 60, probably a 68,
Oh,
say
nice.
68, 69.
Is
And
it a coupe or is it
ever
the
since I was a
fastback?
kid, say again?
Is it the coupe or the fastback?
Oh, it's a fastback. It even,
Oh, lucky.
it was no, it wasn't a Boss. It was a specific build though, specific, model. But I can't remember what it had. But it was beautiful, just red, and it was simple. It wasn't souped up at all. It didn't seem like he did a lot of work to it. It
Mm-hmm.
just, wheels were already flattened. It had clearly been sitting there for a while, and I'm like, oh, let
Oh,
me get this
Lord,
off your
that's so
hands,
sad.
man. Yeah. And so you understand that too. You said growing up, you worked on a lot of your buddies' farms.
Yeah, worked on a lot of my buddies' farms, and uh, I remember in college I worked on the sheep farm, and I think sheep are some of the worst animals ever because they don't listen to you at
That's because
all.
you never worked with a goat.
I've worked with some goats too. Like boar goats are as bad as sheep as well. And as soon as one doesn't like you, they all don't like you for no reason too. So,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
I'm growing up I showed nationally, and goats were always my favorite. But
Really?
now, like, if you are consistent with sheep and you have that one good ewe that can influence the herd,
Yeah.
like, I love sheep. I love sheep.
Hmm.
Like, and they are so beneficial to an entire operation. Like, if you
Yeah.
mix sheep in with steers and mix them in with some chickens or hogs as well, sheep are so beneficial. And
It's,
they normally have like two to three. Well, I mean, they have twins pretty regularly,
yeah.
offspring. So, but you had sheep. What else? What other operations did you work with?
We worked. So at one point in college, I tried starting like a little halal meats company. So mostly focused on poultry, and that was really fun. Um, we always had a crap ton of broilers, and I did all the butchering myself, and that was really fun.
I was
When I
about to
first went to my
say
first
the
one, I was like, "Ooh."
processing.
Yeah, processing is an interesting thing. I mean, if you got a weak stomach, it definitely ain't for you. But I don't have a weak stomach, so I was like, "This is fun." That sounds really bad. Sounds really
But it's
bad.
also
It's really
wild how
fun.
simple it is.
It
So
is.
my sister does it in Rwanda, and they had a whole operation out of a house right there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's built into more now, but they are trying to convert the cultural taste of Rwanda from beef to poultry because they can't afford beef and the
Yeah,
logistics
it's too
don't work. So
expensive.
they're like, let's do chickens. And yeah, they did the exact same thing. And man, that was the first time I ever seen chickens be processed fully. And I
Yeah.
mean, we got to throw it in the dishwasher, that's what I call it. But throw it in there, and the heat and everything. And then they plucked them
Yep.
right there, threw them in black. They cleaned everything,
Yep.
and it was wild to see. But it also makes you appreciate your food because
Exactly.
it's not against doing that, but it's much easier to just go buy the breast, or the certain
Yeah.
cut you want, than like go out and take care of it yourself.
No, exactly. It definitely made me appreciate it a lot more, and I knew exactly where it was all coming from, which is really nice. It's
Hmm.
the same thing like when I go hunting. We did this one like last year. We shot an elk, and we were like, you know what? Let's butcher it ourselves. We're not going to take our butchers. Worst decision of my freaking life.
Yeah,
3 days of just
I was about to say.
finding meat, and then I couldn't find beef fat anywhere in town. And luckily, my buddy Owen Burton, he was like, "Hey, let me ask the meat lab at New Mexico State. They might have some, some trimmings. I was like, thank you. And then they gave it for free. So I was like, sweet, this meat is basically free. The
That's what
butcher
all
and
those connections. That's
yeah, it's
I'm
not
trying to
bad.
break down that barrier of honky tonks being just entertainment, and I'm trying to get a lot more of the like ranching and farming life in there. You know,
Might as well,
I used to
man.
have a dream of one day opening a recording studio out at the farm, the family ranch, and the only way you have to pay for it is to come out and work. So as many you can stay as long as you'd like, but you just have to wake up with me and go feed the steers. If it's baling season, like you're gonna bale hay with me.
Yep.
You're gonna work with everyone we have there, but your studio time is paid for. We'll even bring in songwriters and whatnot, and just have a whole session. I'd love that, just so people
Great.
can find the inspiration, like find
Yeah.
the inspiration in that day to day work.
Yeah.
It's just working with your hands, being out in the sun, working with like an animal or even plants. There's just
Yeah.
something about being connected to nature that it's very easy to be inspired by.
No, I agree. I agree, man.
What was one of the hardest lessons you had on the farm, like or even ranching?
Let's see. Probably the hardest lesson was, and this was like it was really basic itself. But I remember working for onion farms, and in the mornings they would irrigate it, and what they do is flood irrigation on these onion farms. And one of the days, I remember I got there 5:30 in the morning. I needed to take the soil samples and the leaf samples itself, but I wore my twisted X's, normal shoe that I normally wear when I'm walking around the onion field. But this time, like I said, it was all flooded, which I didn't know. I wasn't aware of it. No one told me anything. So as soon as I go across the field and such, step into it once, and I remember I lost my twisted X's. They were completely gone. Luckily, I had a pair of boots in my truck, but it just all sunk in. And I was like, well, these are no use to me right now. So I washed them up, and I got different shoes and put on my boots and worked out. But I realized, like, okay, be prepared for every single situation that possibly can happen. Because even if it's such a minor thing, it set me back like a good hour on all the other fields I got to work on. So
Yeah.
learn from that for sure.
What did you find out you were really good at? Like naturally you were good at, and what did you find out like I do not want to do that ever again. Like I'm not good at it. I don't care to get good at it. Just gonna ignore it.
So one thing is building fence. That's one thing I know I suck at, and I don't like doing it. So I remember one time I was with my cousin, and we were building fence around one of his neighbor's properties, and the whole entire time I was just like, "This freaking sucks," you know. And we don't have any like fancy equipment, to put the
Yeah.
posts in. We kind of just did it by hand, and it was long days. I remember there was one time we started at like 6 in the morning, and we were done at like 7:30 as the sun was setting. And it definitely teaches you a lot. It teaches you a lot of patience,
Hmm.
and um, teaches you a lot about being a man and what you're capable of doing. But at the same time, it's just like,
Yeah.
this sucks. It was 115 that day. Never again. Yeah, never.
And what did
But
you
my
feel like
kids
you were
will do
just really
it.
good at?
Hmm?
Yeah. What did you catch on too quickly? What did you like? I will do this every day if I could.
Okay, so this is actually recently. So recently, I started picking up a job at like a tire shop here in town, just because I was like, I don't like being at home when I'm not on the road playing shows.
Hmm.
Because I feel like music is one of those things where, like, as a musician, as an artist, you're kind of just thinking about music all the time. Uh,
Yeah.
the next song, the next show, um, those little things. So I like to get out of the house and just feel human, if that makes sense, and just to ground myself, get my hands dirty, just get things off my mind. And I picked up a job at Discount Tire, and I freaking love that job. I'm gonna be honest, I freaking love it. A lot of my coworkers hate changing tires or sticking them, but I think it's so relaxing, so much fun. And
Hmm.
yes, the days are long sometimes, but I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a fun job in my opinion. And
Do you think it's a puzzle aspect to it? That's what I've figured. Like with the creative mind, I think it's nice to be in control of something, and there's something
yes,
about working on the car that there's a way to do it. There are instructions to do it, and when you
yes,
complete it, you're done. That's the hard part about farming. I will say is that the work is never done, and that's
no,
what a lot of people like right now. I'm a training director with Chick-fil-A, and it's all speed. And like I love sometimes like my ADHD kicks in with that speed, and I'm just like work,
Me
work, work, and next thing I
too.
know, 4 hours have passed. I'm like, yes, okay.
Yes,
But there
exactly.
is a point too where like there's a time where I kind of just want to do stuff at my pace and do it for a long time, and I realize like that's the farmer in me because we
Yep.
learned pretty early on as a kid. It's like don't do your chores fast
No.
unless you got to get to school. But if you are like on an
Yes.
off day and you decide today I'm going to be the best raker ever, I'm going to get all the leaves in the yard and I'm even going to pick up the sticks too, and the acorns have no chance. Okay, well, as soon as you're done with that, you don't get to rest.
No.
There's no
There's,
reward
there's,
for
there's
finishing
more to do.
quickly. Yeah, and so we always were like, I'm going to do what I'm doing extremely well, but I'm going to do it slow. I'm gonna do it
Yep.
at my pace. I'm gonna do it all day, and I'm gonna work. And
Yep.
so I think there's something about like working on vehicles or anything really engineering, mechanical, that it's that middle ground. You want to be quicker because as soon as you're done, you're done.
Yep.
But also, it's quality.
Yes.
There's just these certain parts put together, and once you begin to understand the whole how everything else runs, then you get to start doing almost to me like the medical side, like your mom would know. I I love medical stuff because I love helping people. Like I was a
Yep.
lifeguard for a decade, never had to touch the water, barely had to use my first aid because I was really proactive. But like, there's something about helping someone like that is just very satisfying. It's like I knew how to do it and I did it. You know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like, this is a very off topic story, but story time with Dzaki
Come
Sukarno.
on, this is why we're here.
Yes. So in college, a lot of people don't know I was in a fraternity, and we got banned from campus.
Mm.
And
Rowdy, rowdy.
rowdy, yeah, we were camping, and a kid got shot. It was really bad. It was really, really bad. Kid
I
got
mean,
shot in the right
normal
thigh.
stuff.
I don't
Jeez.
exactly know what was going on. I just remember just hearing it. But I saw the kid and saw the hole in his leg, and I was like, "Oh shoot!" And I remember pushing him down, and then we made a makeshift tourniquet,
Belt. Yeah.
and then we got him out of the force. Got him to the hospital and stuff. But I probably wouldn't know how to do that if I wasn't in the Air Force or when not through like my ROTC classes and such. And it's crazy. In class I was like, when am I gonna use this? I'm never gonna use this.
Hmm.
And when it happened, it was all just instant. Didn't
Exactly.
even think about it. It was just go, go, go. Get this guy out of here. We got to get him home. And yeah, but story time. Yeah, but we got kicked off
Yeah, you
campus.
might be a good ER nurse. No, dude, we love these tangents. This is why we're here. We're just honky talking about it. But that's I feel the exact same way because although I was just a lifeguard, I never got to use much of my training. But there was times, specifically when in particular, we were just playing backyard ball, and it was me and my buddy who were both about my size, about 6'4", 6'5", and he played football, but we both kind of played basketball, and he was stronger than I was, but one of the guys kept trying to dunk on us, and it was crazy because we gave him a warning. We're like, hey, please don't jump with us. Like, we're just playing. Like,
Yep.
if we jump, don't jump. And he jumped, and they got caught like shoulder and lat
Oh,
and hit, and the other guy went backwards, and his head busted open.
oh
And yeah,
shoot.
didn't think twice. We had one of our guys was about to go to med school to be a doctor. He already graduated with his degree, but he was about to go into get his doctorate. And he and I instantly took primary and secondary, like you're saying, did not miss a second. I
Yeah,
didn't even
didn't
need to
think
be
about
told
it.
by him. I instantly ran in, got all my washcloth, my disinfectants, little stuff to do here and there. And as soon as I got in, we were already taking care of, putting him on his side and all that. So there's just some of us are made for stuff and some of us aren't.
Yep, it's
And
true,
so
man.
like, do you feel through all this though you want to end up one day just on a farm, your own farm, or
Probably, yeah. I think my dream is to own a couple acres and just have a place where I can breathe. And whenever I'm not touring or thinking about music, I just sit there with my wife, have a cup of coffee in the morning,
Mhm.
watch the sunrise or whatever, and then take the kids to school. But that's like the ultimate goal is to have like a family farm that I can raise my kids and hopefully pass it through generation to
Mhm.
generation. Like that's one thing I kind of envy about a lot of my friends is that they've been in New Mexico since forever, and their family has been here since forever too.
Yeah.
And because of that, they've owned their family ranch for generations, and I want to be able to do the same thing. And like, I don't hate that my parents are from Indonesia. I think that's freaking awesome. my family, like my mom's side of the family, did a lot of farming out there. We did a lot of rice paddies and like durian trees. Um, but it's one of those things where I want to be able to leave something for my kids and also my great grandkids
Hmm.
and their kids and so on and so forth, and keep passing down that history, I guess.
That's important, and that's the thing too. And I think you have a good balance of understanding is you've transitioned well of like honoring your past and your parents'
Hmm.
heritage, while also realizing like I want to be here and I want to honor this land as well.
Yeah,
And it's not as though you're split between the two. It's the fact of
yeah,
like this is where I'm gonna dig, and you can always visit home. And Ian, who knows, you might end up back home.
yeah.
We never know how
You
life
never
is,
know.
but time marches on. But
Yeah,
wherever it is, you want to end up really digging in, and that's an important thing. I always think is that our country artists have some interest. If that is conservation, maybe they just want to hunt. Cool, maybe they want to do conservation of land when it comes to farming. Maybe they want to do some regenerative farming, or maybe they just want to like work in a vet, work veterinarian work. Whatever it is, I just feel as though it's important for country artists to have some type of connection to the land and what we do, not only for the inspiration and obviously the good songwriting, but we are a culture, and
yeah.
I'm curious for you. We kind of had that whole conversation in Nashville about
Yeah.
dancing. We're at this
Hmm.
dance fest, and it's like, man, I don't know. Like, no one here is wearing a cowboy hat. No one here is there, and you got to see the dancing. And
Yep.
so, from seeing that and seeing where you've played, and don't play to me. This is for your fans, not me. For our listeners. But like, where do you see first the relationship between country music and dancing? So I call that honky tonk music. Like
Yep.
country music, you want to dance to. The dancers themselves, honky tonks, all that connection. Where do you see that? And then also, like, have you had positive things from it, or do you really see like this needs to change? Or I don't like that this is going this way, or I really like this. There's
Yeah.
like, I want you to just drop some knowledge on these people because, again, it's also good for them to hear. If you do agree with me, it's good to hear from another person, especially someone that's not me, that's up on stage, that's a very different perspective,
Yeah.
and what you see so they can also hear that.
Yeah. So like, I'm gonna start off like by saying like I remember in college like my friends and I would go to this bar every single week because 18 and up. Thursday nights, a little bit of Texas and El Paso. We drive that 45 minutes to El Paso and go there every Thursday night. Go dancing.
Hmm.
And at the time, it was still just country music, and that's it. Like they had a so-called ratchet hour at midnight, and they'd play like trap music, they'd play like line dancing music, so on and so forth. And even then, at that time, there wasn't a lot of line dancing going on. Like, there was some songs, but not much. It was mostly
Hmm.
just two-stepping, one-stepping, a lot of waltz, and it was freaking awesome. We'd go there every Thursday night, go dance, go hang out, and that's like one of my core memories of college is doing that almost every single week. And
Hmm.
then recently, about a couple months ago, I went back to that same bar. So different. So
Hmm.
different. Like the amount of music that was played, you still had songs playing the whole entire night, but you rarely hear any country music. It's mostly like line dancing music, or
Hmm.
you'll hear a lot of country pop. And at the end of the day, I ain't gonna dance to any country pop music. Give me some George Strait, give me some Alan Jackson, give me some honky tonk music I can dance to, and find someone to dance with. So that
Yeah.
kind of threw me off, and it's the same way as well. Like I remember like going to concerts as well as a kid and throughout like college and high school as well. Like people still dance to a lot of these different artists that play on stage, and I know that for me as well. When I'm singing on stage, it's some of the best feelings ever when I see across the room. It's not even a young couple, but it's an older couple that's dancing to my music, and I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, I'm able to merge that gap between two different generations. Um, but you rarely see that nowadays anymore. There's a lot of people who don't know how to dance in the first place. Like your mama didn't teach you. That's pretty rough. You're gonna have a rough wedding. But like it's just so different nowadays. I mean, people don't go to a country bar anymore to go two stepping or to have partner
Hmm.
dancing. They're going to a country bar to go line dancing or to get messed
Hmm.
up. And it's just so different nowadays, I guess. Like I remember, I watch a lot of documentaries. I'm a nerd, so I watch a lot of documentaries and stuff like that. But if you look at old country music artists that would go sing at old honky tonks, I mean, use like Garth Brooks as an example. Like he's from Oklahoma, but you have all those different bars like the Tumbleweed. You still see a
Tumbleweed,
lot of
yeah, yeah.
still dancing. They're still dancing. They're enjoying their time, and that's all that you're doing. You go see a brand new artist now. There's no one dancing. They're just there getting messed up. They're fighting. It's not the same anymore. I mean, that's also depending on what kind of country music it is as well. But even then, it's just so
Yeah.
social.
Yeah, not every country artist is a honky tonk artist. That's the
Yeah, I
important
don't know.
part. And that's okay. Like, I don't think people understand that too. It's like it's a concert. We're
Yeah,
not here to say everyone has to dance. We're not here to say this, but it's like when you're at a concert, call me wrong, call me stupid, but I think dancing should have the priority. I think there should be maybe a VIP section that they sell those like 2 to 3, maybe 4 rows right in front of the stage, but
yes,
there should be dancing right in front because dancing is a physical representation of music, and
yeah.
therefore you and I are almost having a conversation without even talking. I'm
That
hearing
is
what
so
you're
true.
playing, and if you don't play well enough, I'm not gonna talk to you. Like if you're not
Yeah,
interesting, I'm gonna go sit down and drink and talk to my friends while you play, and then you're just gonna be a Nashville corner like artist.
I
And
agree.
that's what
I
separates
agree.
those guys is no one in Nashville is in the corner making the whole place dance and stays there for longer than a month.
Yeah,
If you are at some random bar by yourself and you're getting people up moving, that means they want you there and they're going to buy more and you're benefiting the business. You're not going to stay there long.
exactly,
But
exactly.
if you're just a songwriter, which again, that's not to say it's bad. It's the fact of like you were saying of back when you were in college, it had a different feel. And to me, what I've seen is the feel has changed because people have taken advantage of the honky tonk's hospitality.
Yeah,
Everyone has kind of started, especially after COVID, we're really like, I want to connect to someone. I want to feel something. It's like, well, we've been doing this for 150 years.
mm,
Nightclubs stopped doing this around the 80s, like the hip hop era, and people didn't really care because they didn't know how to dance anyways. So they started going to the nightclub. The issue is
yep,
when they got older or the younger guys stopped drinking and stopped wanting to do that, smart, or they were
yep.
just unsafe in that area. So they stopped going to the nightclub because the nightclub didn't promote dancing and they went to the honky tonk. Well, then those same people have started influencing the honky tonk to want Disney songs being played for a line dance or hip hop like crazy. Pitbull and T Pain have taken over.
Yeah,
I mean, Ed Sheeran 2 years ago. Ed Sheeran
yeah.
2 years ago was the song of the
Jitters or
honky
whatever that
tonk.
sounds like.
Shivers, yeah.
Yeah,
It's like again, no one sees an issue with that.
no,
Like no one sees an issue that their instructor doesn't know who Freddie Fender is. No one has an
no.
issue that no one knows who Marty Robbins is. And again, Marty Robbins isn't like the best honky tonk, but no one knows who Gary Stewart is. And people are
That's
saying that
the
he's
thing
the
too.
king of
Yeah,
the honky tonk, you know? And so it's I don't think people realize the position they put us in as musicians, traditional pre-musicians. I kind of hate the neo-traditional genre, like sound. How do you, not sound, but like to call someone neo-traditional instead of just a traditional sound, is that not kind of insulting?
I don't know. It depends. I never really thought about it, so I don't know.
I just
I
feel
will.
like John Party early. I don't know what John Party's doing these days, and if John Party ever listens to this, he can take it as an insult, and he and I can talk about it just because I'd love to talk to him. But I just feel like ever since his like second album, I'm kind of like,
I'm
okay.
gonna be off on the
But
same.
people have put him as like the face of neo-traditional, and I kind of
Mhm.
hear it. Even like Parker to me, it's like that traditional sound, but like a twist. But with you, I don't feel like there's a twist. You kind of like a lot of our new guys coming up, they appreciate the 60s, 70s, and 80s, which is what made the 90s sound. So
I
to
agree.
say you were inspired by the 90s, it's like, yeah, like I love Tracy Lawrence, but it's also
Yeah,
like I still listen to the people he looked up to. So that's why I
exactly,
sound that way.
exactly.
Like it's not me copying them, and that's what I think a lot of the new artists people don't realize how good it is, but we're not copying people. And a lot of these older folk, when we tell them, hey, there's a traditional country artist, they're gonna think we're talking about like Morgan Walmart or someone that sounds like John Party, and it's like, okay, cool. What else has he got? And it's like, no, you don't realize. Like, I need you to
Hmm.
listen because he sounds exactly like them, but he's not copying them. He's copying really the 80s and the 70s, so he
Hmm.
sounds 90s because everything's a decade late and people don't catch
Yes,
that. I mean,
especially
I try to
country
tell people
music.
about Ronnie Millsap. And I'm like,
Yeah.
guys, that is straight disco because he was inspired by the decade before him,
Yep.
and that's
It
okay. But
really
it's
is.
like,
People don't realize that, but it's so true. Same thing like
what
Vince
was
Gill and all them
cool.
too.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like what was cool, what was there, and Vince Gill does it, but he has a background in gospel, and you
Yep.
can tell, and bluegrass. So like he brought that in, and that to me is what makes you who you are and country what it is the fact of like we have the same values, but that does not mean you know who I am. So I'm going to show you.
I
And that's the
agree.
same thing with our dancing, our regional dances. New Mexico, I would love to be able to teach New Mexico, or at least remind them of who we are. You know, what are our basic steps? And then just be like, go for it. Let norteñas affect them. Let, certain native dances affect them. Let everything affect how New Mexico dances. And the next thing you know, New Mexico has styles that they can communicate with other people.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just pop, like it's not a pop style, because that's what a lot of people think. Oh, well, regional
Yeah.
dances are just you changing something. It's like, no, you still have to talk to people. Like,
Yes. You still gotta
it's like right now what we're
initiate the
doing in
conversation.
country. Yeah, you have to be able to also call back on stuff. If you're
Yep.
gonna say you're Indonesian and you don't know, I don't know the history, a little bit of history of Indonesia, it's like, okay, so what makes you Indonesian? So
Hmm.
you're just kind of brought into it. Okay,
Yep.
that makes that makes sense. And it's
It's
the
so
same
odd.
thing.
Yeah.
Even if I'm a like white boy, I could go over and live for a decade and honor them and still be more welcomed than some people who are 100% Indonesian but don't care.
True.
You
That
know,
is straight facts. People don't realize that.
it's the same thing, and that's what we just have way too many people in our culture, in our scene, that love the trend, and I'm all about it. If you want to follow the trend, I think that's great. But they're not thinking long term like you and I are. You know what I'm saying? They're not seeing the fact of like if grandma's not dancing, I feel kind of like bad
Mm-hmm.
because again, being the bridge, we're trying to make grandma happy and also grandson happy. And the problem
Yes.
is grandson is not respecting grandma, and I'm talking grandson like 22 years old. Like this isn't 16-year-olds. These are grown, and some of these are grown adults that can't
Yeah.
understand what honor means and tradition means. And it's
Yeah.
like, you're not welcoming grandma, and you're slowly turning it into a nightclub. And once the nightclub culture takes over, we're done.
Yeah.
We are dead.
And I agree
And
with
that's
that.
not even talking about farmers and ranchers. You know,
Yep.
that's not even talking about our dreams of building the ranch. You know, I'd love to go back home, but there's no profit there right now.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, there's also too many people. The market is saturated of country dancing, country music, and it's really hard to find your way when everyone says they're country this and country that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, what makes you different? You
Mm-hmm.
know,
It's
Loretta
just
Lynn
a
said
trend
that.
right
You
now.
know, of
All it is
yeah,
is
to
just a
make
trend.
it as a new artist, you have to be either what is it, first, the best, or different.
Yeah.
And right now, it's hard to even be any of those
Yep.
because even if you are different or the best or the first, no one cares. It's
Yeah.
literally just following those trends.
Exactly. And that's what Nashville, like, that's one thing I hated about Nashville. And I remember hearing this from a lot of different people is, you got to, take the punches that they throw at you. And if, let's just say, it swings this way, you got to follow it. I'm like, hell no. I'm going to do the music that I like doing. And if they don't like it, then they're going to have to suck it up, Buttercup, because that's exactly what I'm going to keep doing. You know?
Hmm.
And ultimately, I moved out. I moved out of Nashville because I was like, the writers I was writing with, like, I didn't enjoy the writing style that they were doing. I told them,
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, I want a George Strait song. Let's do this. Let's write something like in that style, still fiddle.
Yeah.
You can hear the fiddle and you can hear the steel, even if it's just you're playing acoustically. And I'm like, okay, perfect. And we wrote a Cole Swindell song. And I was like, this is not for me. And no offense to Cole Swindell. I'm just using him as an example. But
Yeah.
it's just now, like, you see a lot of people as well. Like you said, it's all trending. You see a lot of different artists that normally sing pop country music or different other styles of country, and all of a sudden they're releasing a single or an album that's all 90s esque, and that's
They're
just because
trying. They're
are
trying.
trying, and you can tell it's not necessarily their sound; it doesn't fit what they're doing, and it's just a trend.
Hmm.
But I
Well,
love
that's what I
talking.
also, yeah. I also love that a lot of times in Nashville, it's so easy to pick up on that because people who sound like the 90s because they love the 70s and 80s is because you can pick up on it when they don't mention the 90s.
Gotcha.
But the guys you're talking about will just like, they checklist it. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, like Tim in the '90s, and it's like, okay, so you're trying to tell me about the '90s. What you don't sound like it. Like it's almost like
Yep.
you're acting of show me, don't tell me. Like
Yes.
brother,
Yes.
sing that way, find inspiration that way, but stop just checklisting stuff.
I agree. I agree. You know, like I just, if you love, it's one of those things like you gotta truly love it. You know, like I
Hmm.
know I've talked to a couple artists where they're like, I asked them like, oh, why do you do music? Why do you do this? And I remember hearing random answers that don't relate to music at all, or why. You know, the why itself. Like I think that's like the most important thing is your why. And if your why
Hmm.
doesn't make sense, like you're in the wrong industry. You know, like I've talked to people like, oh, I'm here for the money. I'm here for the fame. I'm ready for this. I'm like, cool. That's great. That's a great mindset I have. But who did you listen to? Like, who are your inspirations? What made you
Hmm.
love this specific genre or show? And I
Yeah.
remember asking someone this, and they're like, honestly, I don't know. Like, I'm just doing country just cause. And I'm like, what? What?
Yeah.
No
Yep. I
way.
run
Like,
into the same stuff. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I'm like, you gotta really love it, or like at least know a little small portion of the history on why you want to do it. You know, like for me, like Randy Travis is one of my favorite artists, and if you listen to him, he listens to a lot of George Jones, and that's why his style is very.
Hmm.
A lot of those slower songs has those runs and stuff, and I love that shit, and that's what I try to not necessarily imitate, but I use those aspects in my style of singing as well. So
Hmm.
I can go on a tangent on and on forever about all of this because there's just so much going on, especially now that it doesn't feel authentic anymore. There we go.
Hmm. We might have to do a live eventually, man, because I want to hear that tangent. I mean, we do need to be nice to them, but who knows? Some of these people have very long drives. But yeah, we might need to do a live, and I want to follow that tangent. But I do want to really wrap this up with finishing about you, though, and kind of seeing the future. And so, one, who would you be humbled to be compared to? Like your sound. Like if someone said, man, I really hear this in your voice, or like, have you ever listened to this guy? Who would you be humbled to be compared to?
Definitely Randy Travis. Like I said, like he's one of those artists that I loved growing up listening to, and I love the songs that he released where they told a lot of stories, and it wasn't necessarily just, oh, my heart is broken. My heart is
Hmm.
broken because of this. I'm
Hmm.
feeling this way, and it's not
Hmm.
just feeling, but it's that deeper meaning of how you're feeling this.
Hmm.
And I just probably him for sure. Him, any of my heroes like Alan Jackson and George Strait and all of them as well. But Randy Travis is probably one of those artists where if someone's like, "Oh, you sound like Randy Travis," I'm like, "Oh, whoa, that's a really big deal to me, and thank you. It really does mean a lot." You know, I think I sound like Dzaki, but thank you. You know, so
Well, the thing too is you obviously are not in the same register as him, so you're not going
no,
to technically sound like. But songwriting abilities, that's always capable. You're always capable to do that. And I do think, you know, you got in me of your songwriting ability just to take a simple concept and like you're saying right there about Randy. I mean, I kind of hear it in your songs of taking a concept and not over emotionalizing it, not over intellectualizing it, but feeling it and then
mm-hmm.
like breaking it apart.
Yeah,
Of how do you respond to it? How should have you responded to it? Like the life of it, the realness and the rawness of it. I think you are doing that. And
well,
obviously
thank you.
not every song is going to do that. The same way Randy didn't do that every single song.
Yep.
He joked around too. So it's good to do that. But I'm curious to see what you would qualify as your moment where I've made it, or what is your like maybe even not I've made it, but I guess maybe like final goal of like this is where I would be proud no matter what happens after this. I can go. I can leave. I can fail the rest of my life. Like this, though, is what I want to know. I did it, and I accomplished it. And to me, I know even I don't need to hear it from anyone else.
Yeah.
It could be an award. You know what I'm saying? Like if we're like, oh, I want to win CMA Songwriter of the Year. Okay, okay, that is technically allowing other people's opinions, but
Yeah.
in the end, like you would know, I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish.
I think my biggest thing is like I'm very grateful for my family being well, very grateful for the military for stationing my dad here in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Just because Las Cruces has taught me a lot about myself and what I want to do in my life itself. And this is going to be a really long shot, but my ultimate dream, where I know I've made it, is really corny. But if I see my name on I-10 saying Dzaki Sukarno on the water tower, I know I've made it. And it says like home of Dzaki Sukarno, Las Cruces, New Mexico. Because my ultimate goal is like, yes, make it big for myself, but also I want to put Las Cruces in the map and just let everyone know like, hey, there is country music, there is country still here, and it's not going to die. Like you go to Oklahoma, you go through Yukon and all that, you see like, oh, or more Oklahoma, you see home of Toby Keith, on the water tower.
Garth Brooks, Reba
Yukon,
everyone. Yeah, Carrie Underwood, everyone.
Yep, so that's the goal is like one day in the future, if I see my name on that water tower right next to the Walmart, I'm a happy man.
I love that, brother. Well, I'm hoping to help you in whatever way I can get to that point. And it's going to take a lot of work, but you already understand that and you're already working at it. And it's really cool to hear that also you understand that sometimes you have to work outside of music to keep yourself going because, starred artists don't always make the best art. It's rare, but it's good to make sure you're taken care of first, and therefore then you can have fun and enjoy the process of all your songwriting and performing. And so where can these folks find you? Where are you playing next? You said you got one in Houston coming up, but where can they find you playing shows? And also any social medias outside of the show links, or the show notes rather, that I'm going to post, and my socials. Where can they find you online?
You can find me at ZakiSukarno.com. Most of the time I will post all my shows throughout the year. And you can follow all my social media, which is also Dzaki Sukarno. Unless it's TikTok, it's my name backwards, IKAZD. Those people off, I know. And you can listen to all my music on every single streaming platform out there. So,
Perfect. Well, I'm proud of you, Dzaki Sukarno. You're a legend already in my books. I'm really proud to call you a friend.
You too,
and I'm really
man.
grateful that you're keeping Honky Tonks country. I look forward to crossing paths again, man.
Oh, we're going to, and I'm going to freak out, just like the first time I ever met you, and like relive again in Nashville, bro. I'm going to geek out so hard.
Oh, goodness. That's what I love hearing. Well, it's a pleasure, brother.